5:01, and I'd like to call this meeting to order of the Patricia A. Hannaford Regional Technical School District Board to order. It's Wednesday, October 14th. It's 5:01, and we have a major echo tonight.
Yeah, maybe we should all mute.
How about everybody but board members mute, and then let's see if that helps anything.
I move that we start this meeting at 5:01.
Thank you, Jed. So can we do introduction of board members? Jed, we'll start with you.
My name is Judd Markowski. I live in Bridgeport, and I represent the Career Center from, I think I usually say the business front.
Yes. Kim?
Kim Farnan from New Haven, community at large member from the Mount Abraham School District.
Christina?
Hi, everybody. Christina Macklin from Ferrisburg. I'm the Addison Northwest School District rep.
Lorraine?
Hi, Lorraine Morse from Middlebury, one of the two reps from the Addison Central School District.
Missy?
Hi, Missy Beckwith, representative for the Workforce Investment Board.
Nick, are you sitting in the room? I guess that's a no. Dana? Can they hear us?
I don't see them on here, but
And I don't see that Nick's even here, so.
How's that?
Dana, can you introduce who's in the room with you?
Yes, happy to. We have Ed Costin, at-large member from ACSD. We have Linda Barrett, clerk. We have Austin Haynes, the business manager, and myself, Director Superintendent Dana Peterson.
Okay, and I'm Suzanne Buck. I'm a ACSD rep and I'm chair. And then if our visitors would one by one unmute and introduce themselves, I'll start with David Roberts.
I am David Roberts, Adult Ed Coordinator.
Jake.
I am Jake Burnham, teacher at the Career Center.
Jay.
Hi, I'm Jay Stetzel. I'm the Assistant Director for the Career Center.
Kelly.
Kelly Mills, agriculture teacher.
Who else is on here? Patrice.
I am Patrice Alexander, the administrative assistant.
Steve Rooney, I forgot you when we did the board. I apologize.
Sorry, I had to switch to my phone, so.
Oh. You want to introduce yourself, Steve?
Yeah, Steve Rooney, representative from Mount Abe Unified School District.
Thank you. And Wendy.
Hi, Wendy Pratt, math coach and IB coordinator at the Career Center.
Thank you. Is there anyone I missed that did not get a chance to introduce themselves other than MCTV?
Dan?
Yes.
Just for clarification, so that if anybody is going to speak in the room, we'll have them raise their hand so that you'll know who's speaking, in case that's something.
So I can't see the room at all?
You can't see the room?
No.
I think you're with the video.
That's why I asked you to introduce who was in the room.
By that?
How about now?
Yep.
No.
Yeah, we can see the
People, yes? No, she's waving back, so
We can see ourselves.
we can see ourselves. Can you see us now?
Well, barely. Is that Linda that was waving?
Yeah, that's Linda.
Okay, yeah, I mean, you can barely, Linda's the only one I can see, and you can couldn't really tell it was her.
It's so the distance. Yeah. Can you see Austin?
Yes.
Now I see somebody waving.
That's awesome. That's why I said, if somebody will wave and then they'll introduce themselves so that you know the speakers.
Okay.
Yeah, his speech was very tinny. I couldn't understand him, Dana.
All right. May I have a motion to approve the agenda?
Moved.
Seconded.
Been moved and seconded to approve the agenda, but I have to make 2 additions to it. So before we proceed to vote, first addition is under the action agenda, under proxy certificate of authority designation by the board. I need to add an item C, and that's for the VSBA for a delegate and alternate. And then our policies, before we go into informational agenda, is a discussion on a possible hire for building trades, giving permission to superintendent to possibly have the finalists start prior to our next board meeting. Okay.
Okay.
With those additions to the agenda, does anybody else have anything that they would like to correct or add? Hearing none, we'll proceed to vote. All in favor of the updated agenda as stated, please say aye or raise your hands.
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. Motion is passed. Do we have any visitor comments? I don't see any raised hands and I don't hear anybody. So I'm going to say there are no visitor comments. Dana, correspondence, the letter you have?
Yes, would you like me to read that?
Please.
Happy to. I'm going to take off my mask so you can hear me a little bit better. So this is a letter from our medical professions instructor. It says, "Dear Dana and Jay, I've been looking forward through October and beyond, trying to find balance with my family obligations and those to the students in the medical professions program, and that's been exceedingly challenging. I also cannot plan on a specific timeline for my husband's various health treatments and needs to become more settled. I have sincerely appreciated the efforts you have made to meet the needs I have had regarding a safe teaching environment and FMLA adaptations. During this time, the Vermont State Teachers Retirement System has assisted me in expediting retirement paperwork, and I'm now in a position to retire as of October 31st, 2020. I'm submitting this as a full notification of my intent to retire the last employment period ending Saturday, October 31st, 2020. My goal is to help facilitate an orderly transition from medical professional program to ensure that students are able to successfully complete the curriculum. Sincerely, Barbara Johnson Snow, medical professions instructor." So this is dated October 1st. So Barbara met with me and Jay and then gave us a letter, which I have included in the packet. So this is also under the action item to take action on. So I'll stop there and we can move on in the agenda.
Thank you. So under consent agenda, we have the minutes of September 9th, 2020. Is there any issues with those? Okay, you were all emailed just today from Austin, all of the monthly accounts with all of the dollar figures. Are there any questions? Did you A quick question, was it appreciative that you got the monthly accounts payable numbers before the meeting?
I think
Yes.
any of the information that we can get before meetings is great. It's awesome to have the chance to look over it without trying to go back and forth between the screens. Thank you.
I agree.
Okay, Austin, thank you for getting that out.
Sure thing.
Kudos to you, thank you again. So if there's no concerns about the minutes or the accounts, since we've approved the agenda, we'll move on to the action agenda. Policy 2.3, financial conditions and activities. Is that you, Austin?
That is mine. Yes, it is. So it's a similar policy we looked at a few months ago, and I guess I'll just summarize the key nuggets and takeaways. Under number 1, basically we've used $640,000 or expended $640,000 or 16.5% of our fiscal year 21 approved budget. And I listed a few other pieces, including encumbrances in that. For number 2, we've used about $350,000 of our line of credit to float operating expenses. Underneath that, I listed anticipated revenues and revenues we've received to date for state-based education payments. And based on history and what we did last year, we're expecting to pay off any subsequent loans or pulls from the line of credit by December. So that's number 2. On number 3, there's an invoice for $15,000 that is attributed to the BERF, and that's an expense we incurred back in February of this year. It's for engineering and architecture services that were performed in about February. So the invoice for that, the payment will go out in this payables run this week. Under number 4, we've transferred about $10,500 to cover our HRA expenses this fiscal year, and there were about $2,700 of proceeds from sale of farm equipment over the past several months. Let's see. Skipping ahead to number 7, we just recently closed on a grant with Efficiency Vermont and Control Technologies, and that's a grant related to the COVID relief funds for $21,300 to be expended by the end of this year. Let's see. Under number 8, we recently are in the process of purchasing a brush hog. The proceeds of that were attributed to the sale of farm equipment that I mentioned before. And then number 9, we're in the process of working through our Perkins grant submission for this year. That's in the works, and I ballparked the number of $108,000 that we used for last year. Outside of that, I guess I'll take questions on this.
Are there any questions for Austin? No? If there are none, may I have a motion to accept policy 2.3, financial conditions and activities?
So moved.
Second, Kim?
So Nick moved it and Kim seconded to approve policy 2.3, financial conditions and activities. Is there any further conversation? Oh, Steve?
Oh, Steve, you're on mute.
Sorry, I was raising my hand to say aye.
Oh, okay. All right, all in favor?
Jumping the gun.
Please say aye.
Aye.
Raise your hand.
Aye.
Okay. Motion's passed. Policy 2.5, emergency superintendent succession. That's you, Dana, I believe.
Yep. So this is a policy to ensure that you have acceptable safeguards in the event that something happens to the superintendent and you need an emergency succession plan. So I will summarize what is in the report. Basically, I meet with Jay Stetzel, the assistant director, regularly, and I also meet with Austin, director of business management and finance. And the process is one, we have a small operation. Jay would assume the legal and fiscal responsibilities in conjunction with Austin to provide guidance. And the approach for sharing leadership allows for us to have a review fiscal responsibilities, payroll, and so forth. And those things could be really well coordinated. If we needed to have an emergency succession, the roll routine of students could be picked up by some folks who have administrative licenses and are competent in that area on staff to be able to fill in the interim while a search goes on for other personnel, somebody to take over that role. The two most important areas are legal and fiscal, and those responsibilities will be assumed by Jay, as I mentioned earlier. And that would be an interim situation that you would be looking at. And if the plan needed to be implemented, I have some guidelines here that would be followed. Basically, the assistant director would call the board chair, as well as the secretary of education, to inform them of the need. And then the administrative assistant and the director of business management and finance would coordinate with the board. They have to set a date and a time for a special meeting. Special meetings require 24 hours of notice, and the meeting would be more appropriately. Patricia, the administrative assistant, would also send a warning to the media and town clerk so that everybody knows that meeting is taking place, so transparency and succession of leadership. And the leadership team would also be convened by the assistant director, as well as the business manager, in order to make sure that the succession plan could be executed, and that you would be sufficiently informed of the needs and how the operational needs would be addressed. And then you would also be supported in contacting the Vermont Superintendent's Association if the need for interim support from an experienced superintendent were needed. You could contract with the VSBA for some services in the interim while things move forward for a search. And then there are monitoring reports, and those are broken up at the end of my report that says who would be responsible for each one of those. Basically, Jay, as the assistant director, would take over responsibilities for those policies that I currently report on, and Austin would take on the full responsibility of reporting on the financial conditions. So those are 2.3, 2.4, 2.6, and 2.7. Ends policies and all the 2 policies would be covered by Jay. I intend to continue to involve all key administrative personnel and all aspects of leadership in order to ensure continuous guidance and cohesive transition if the need arises.
Thank you. Are there any questions for Dana?
Hello?
Yeah.
I just have, I thought it was very clear and very good, very, very complete. I just have, just to show that I read it, the top of the second page, there should be warm meeting appropriate rather than warm.
Yes, I thought that after I had already distributed it, so, my apologies. Sometimes, even the best of us make mistakes. Thank you. There's another title about the guy.
Missing each
Oh, really? That's okay. I have an article in there where I couldn't Missy.
Where we're getting all the notes.
Oh, Missy, Linda says that somehow we're getting feedback from you. Oh, we're good.
Okay. May I have a motion to accept policy 2.5, emergency superintendent succession?
Judd, so moved.
Second.
Oh, Lorraine out well. I'll second it, Lorraine.
Whatever. Just want
So
to
moved by Lorraine, seconded by Judd to accept policy 2.5, emergency superintendent succession. Is there any further discussion?
Hi there. So I didn't hear anything Nick said, just FYI. Was it anything he said important?
I was correcting a couple of typos.
Okay, just checking in. Thank you. The feedback is really bad,
Yeah,
so.
I'm finding the feedback really bad too, especially anything at the central office, well, not central office, but the career center. Even Dana's kind of garbled a little bit.
Okay.
Meeting.
So we're in the, so is there any further discussion on the motion to approve policy 2.5? If not, we'll proceed to vote. All in favor, please say aye or wave your hand.
Aye.
Any
Aye.
opposed? Any abstentions? Motion's passed. Proxy certificate of authority designation by the board for VISBIT, VHI, and VSBA. There's some of it in your packet. Dana, do you want to quickly explain it?
Yes, I'll try. Let me take out my map. Yeah, that helps with all of the transition. In your packet, you have both a VHI, and I'm not sure which one you have. Of course, I have two in front of me. But each year, the Vermont Education Health Initiative and the Vermont School Boards Insurance Trust have annual meetings, and at those annual meetings, there are presentations. They go over the minutes. They take up any action that needs to be voted on. There currently isn't. If you see the agenda, I don't know if I gave you the agenda, but the agenda for both of them are very similar. There's a roll call for members who are present, proof of notice of the meeting. They read the prior annual meeting minutes, and then there are reports of the officers about that, what each organization has done. If there is something that has to come up for a vote, then the delegate is empowered to vote on behalf of the board. And each meeting usually lasts, I want to say, between 20 minutes and a half hour, not very long. And we need to have someone to be designated as your delegate. This is usually held in person at the same time as the annual meeting for the SBA and the VSA in the fall. And I attended as your delegate last year. So it could be somebody else. This year it will be virtual, the meeting, and I think you have this, the meeting for the VHI Board of Directors is October 20th at 5 p.m. And the meeting for VISBIT, the annual meeting for VISBIT is October 22nd at 3:30. So if you take which one do I have listed first on here? I have VISBIT listed first. That's after October 22nd. We have a certificate of authority that will need to be filled out. So we'll need to have a motion to appoint a delegate, and then the board chair or someone else would need to be authorized to sign the certificate of authority.
So Dana, we only need a delegate just a straight delegate for VSBIT and VHI. It's for VSBA that we need the delegate and the alternate. Is that correct?
That's correct. So
Okay.
if we can handle the first two that I'm more prepared to talk about, then that would be great. You can take
So-
them as a group or you can take them individually.
So what I would like to recommend to the group is that we have authorized Dana to be our designee for VSBIT and VHI. I am signed up for VSBA, but as I told Dana earlier, I will be driving home, so I'll be attending VSBA via my phone. So not knowing when they're going to actually vote on things, I would like to have Dana as backup in case I lose cell service on my way home. So if the board is okay with this, I would like the board to authorize Dana as delegate, voting delegate for VSBIT and VHI, and then Dana and myself for the VSBA. The VSBA has 10 resolutions, 8 that they're approved, that they are requesting that people, districts approve, 2 that they're requesting that are denied. And since the resolutions were not included in the packet, I would suggest that the resolutions are emailed to everyone tomorrow with needing back your pleasure on how the delegate or alternate should vote no later than October 22nd, because that meeting is the 29th.
I would move that.
Is that you, Lorraine?
Yeah.
Okay.
Suzanne,
Yes.
can we take those as two separate motions since one has a complex part and it may be easier for the clerk and more in order?
Okay.
Can we take the two that
Yep.
were really on there? So the VSBIT and VHI, if someone would make a motion for their delegate or authorized representative. Lorraine, you want to do that?
Sure. I would move that we make Dana the VHI VSBIT delegate.
It's been moved to make Dana the VSBIT VHI delegate for the PAHCC district. Is there a second to that motion?
Second, Judd.
Jen has seconded it. So it's been moved and seconded to have Dana as the VSBIT VHI designee from PAHCC. And I'm going to suggest that we add on to that you also give me permission to sign off on the form, the proxy form saying that he's our delegate.
Yes, I would amend that to say that.
Okay. Is there any discussion? So can I, is that going to be a friendly amendment, Lorraine, or do I need to have a full vote on the amendment?
Oh, that's a friendly amendment.
Okay. So we've done the friendly amendment to the motion that Dana is our delegate for, Dana be nominated for the delegate for VSBIT and VHI from PAHCC for the meetings on October 20th and October 22nd, with the forms to be signed off by board chair. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion's passed.
And I also move that we make Suzanne our VSBA rep with Dana as the delegate.
I mean, so one is a delegate and one is the alternate?
Right. You as the delegate and Dana as the alternate.
Okay. Is there a second to that motion?
I'll second it. Yep.
That was seconded by Nick. It's been moved and seconded to have Suzanne as VSBA delegate and Dana as the alternate. All in favor, please signify by saying aye or wave your hands.
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? So we will send out those resolutions to you all tomorrow. And please read them and then send back your pleasure on the resolutions to both Dana and myself no later than the 22nd of October.
Suzanne, can I ask a question?
Yes, Christina.
We don't have to take an official vote as a board, or is it, or are emails going to be sufficient in that instance?
I think that if we have your emails as, and we'll hold them as proof of what you've directed the delegates to do, I think that would be fine. But if someone has another thought, please let us know.
Suzanne, if I may chime in, if
Yes.
you are, what you may want to do is move and second that there's a voting period between now and whatever date that you want that to be completed by, so that it's actually official board action and you're falling under the rules of an electronic board vote.
Okay.
Does that answer your question, Christina?
Yeah, sure. I just bring it up because we voted on these this week. So yeah, great. That should solve it, I think.
Okay, so Christina, are you willing to make that motion?
I'm willing to make that motion that whatever Dana just said.
So you're making a motion that the board will vote on the individual resolutions, submitting their votes to the board chair no later than October 22nd?
Yes, well said. I make that motion. Thank you so much.
Is there a second to that motion?
So moved, Kim.
Kim's moved it, and seconded it. So it's been moved and seconded to do an electronic vote on the resolutions with ballots to be submitted to the board chair no later than October 22nd. Is there any discussion? Hearing none. Whoop. Dick?
Nick, will you
Yes.
circulate the results of the electronic vote?
Yes.
Thank you.
Is there any other questions or discussion? Okay, hearing none, we'll proceed to vote. All in favor of the motion, please say aye or raise your hand.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion's passed. Next one is Natural Resource Management Program, request to defer a loan payment. Dana, I don't know if you want to take the lead on this, or Aaron was on here. There he is. Or if you want Aaron to take it.
I prefer that Aaron take.
Okay, Aaron, please unmute and state your request.
Hi, everybody.
Hello.
Hi, Aaron.
Thanks for having me. The request is that each year the Natural Resource Program pays $1,000 lease payment to the school board for a loan that was granted in 2009, I think, for $20,000 to pay for the sugar house. And each year we pay it faithfully. And this is the students paying this, by the way. This is their account. And because of the pandemic, we lost, I don't know, maybe a third or 2/3 of our crop. It says so in the letter. Hopefully you got the letter or email or whatever it is I sent. So this is a request. This is money that the kids use for educational purposes to so that they learn how to manage money in the program. They also use it to pay for field trips, for food, for team building exercises. It's a real learning tool for them. And so because of the pandemic, essentially the kids income was cut by about $1,000. So we just asked to, I don't know if the wording is in the agenda, defer it. Defer the $1,000 just for this year.
So, Aaron, question. If I'm reading this correctly, normally you're saying that the class profits $3,200 and that's after they paid the $1,000. But this year they made $3,200 and if they pay the $1,000, they only put $2,200 in their savings account. Is that correct?
Yeah.
So it's not necessarily that they didn't make any money. They just want to keep it.
Correct.
So, Aaron, I will tell you what was sent to the board was your letter from September 23rd. There was facility committee meeting minutes from September 13th, 2010. Board meeting minutes from September 15th of 2010. Corporate resolution to borrow $25,000, which is the actual loan amount. Facility committee meeting minutes from April 4th, 2011. Another excerpt from another board meeting on April 13th, 2011. A memo from you to Lynn Cole and the board about the loan payment schedule dated 2012. Another email to Lynn about the loan dated 2016, profit and loss statements, and the municipal note line of credit from the National Bank of Middlebury dated 2010, just so that you know what the board received.
Cool. Well, thank you, Austin and Gretchen and Patrice, for digging and digging and digging to find that stuff.
Happy to do it, Aaron. There's a lot of digging.
I spent a lot of time on that, so thank you very much.
Anytime.
Nick?
Thank you. So, Aaron, I noticed that in 2018, you lost, well, the operation lost money. This year, you didn't lose any money. Was the $1,000 forgiven in, or delayed, deferred in 2018 when the financial results were worse than this year?
The financial results weren't worse. It's because the kids spent a lot of money. If you look at the expenses, I think they spent a couple $1,000s on new sap tanks or syrup sap tanks, new concentrate tank, and I think a new bulk tank. So the kids forked out some cash, and it was kind of a neat learning experience for them because they were actually spending money on equipment that I don't think they even got to use. They were buying it for the next generation or next class.
And Nick, in answer to your question, on 2018 under utilities, line 48, it shows lease payment of $1,000. So
Yeah.
I'm presuming that was paid.
Oh yeah, sorry, I don't think I answered the question. Yes, we've always paid every year. Haven't missed a year.
Okay.
Kids are paid.
The capital expenses were high that year, you're right.
I see some hands up. Do I call on people? How does this work?
Suzanne?
Lorraine?
Yeah, Aaron, I've got a couple of questions. So normally, I guess my first question is normally, do you have money, like if you're saying you're anticipating a profit of about 2,200. So, I mean, once you go through your stuff yearly and, I mean, do you guys spend right down or do you normally have leftover money at the end of the year? That's one question.
Mm-hmm.
Do you want my second question now or do you want to answer that first or?
No, the kids don't spend all the money. Part of it is a legacy, the practice of leaving money for the next group to decide what to do with. Also, it's considered overhead for the business. So if something breaks, one year we broke a diaphragm pump in one day and the kids had to spend $1,500 to replace it.
Okay, and my second question is, it does mention that the money pays for various things, as well as equipment upgrades, repair, overhead improvements. But I'm looking at an email, back in 2016, between you and Lynn, and it says, instead of paying this for the 2015 sugaring season, the class will use that money to help repair the James driveway and repair the leaky roof on the sugar house. So I'm assuming that year you did not actually pay the $1,000. Instead, it was used for these other things. Is that correct?
No, it's not. That might have been an idea that was kicked around between us. But no, we never paid for a leaky roof. We just let water run inside. and John Curler went out and replaced fixed whatever leaky roof, I think.
Okay. Okay. So you have continued to just pay the $1,000. Okay. I just wanted some, a little bit of, get that in my mind. So thank you.
Sure.
I'm having trouble tonight. There's so many people on, seeing who's raised hands and who hasn't. So if you want to unmute yourselves or put your name in the chat and I'll get you.
I see Steve Rooney's had his hand up for a while there. He's one of the few on my screen. That's the only reason I know.
So just a clarification, the letter asks for forgiveness. The agenda asks for deferral. What's the difference in what we really want?
Oh, that's a good question. I mean, I as an educator would ask you to forgive it. I mean, it's for kids. What I perceive, and I'm not in charge of your budget, but it's for the kids' money for them to have in their account. So I guess I asked for forgiveness, I think, but it showed up as referral. So I guess we'll take whatever we can get. Deferral, not referral. Deferral. So I mean, that's my thought. That's a good question. I actually didn't even really pick up on the discrepancy. So if you want to forgive it, you're welcome to. But deferring it would still allow the kids to have an account that's sustainable by deferring.
So Aaron, what would they be spending money on this year? Just so the board would know.
Sure. So the kids buy, so as a bonding thing, they all buy jackets from Arborwear. We get them embroidered with logos. The kids spend lunches, for example, hiking Mount Philo to go look at, with a soil scientist to go, this isn't working, to go look at lunches for field trips. Typically, it pays for overnight stays, college visits, and sugaring always gobbles up money. And the kids we're starting the discussion about replacing the old logging winch that we have. We have a very old logging winch, and a very old sawmill. So it's nice. I'm going to pitch to the kids to spend a big chunk of cash this year to replace aging equipment as we start to phase out stuff that's older than I am.
Okay. Is there anyone else that has questions or?
Kim has her hand up.
Sorry, like I said, I'm having technical issues tonight. Kim?
Aaron, a couple questions. One is what you anticipate using for fundraising this year, and how you would go about that.
That's a great question. So how do we generate cash, right? We are going to do a citrus sale, which typically our class, we call it mini chapters. Our class doesn't really do much of that because we have syrup to sell. But there's the citrus sale. What other fundraisers do we do? The syrup sales are our big sales. Sometimes we do log sales. Boy, that feedback is incredible. We do firewood log sales, sometimes syrup sales. That's my class. We participate in the citrus sale. I don't know. I'm sure there are other ones. We're always raising money somehow. But that's basically syrup is 99% of our income in our class.
Lorraine?
Yeah, I mean, Aaron, I'll be honest, I'm a little bit torn because it sounds like you still made a fairly good profit. Are you saying that without the forgiveness or whatever we decide to do to defer it, that the kids would not be able to, I mean, the field trips, I mean, not the field trips, the like visits to overnights and those kind of things obviously are not going to be happening this year anyway, I'm assuming. So are you saying that the kids would still not be able to get their jackets? I mean, I certainly wouldn't want to see something like that missed out on, but are you saying if this $1,000 isn't deferred that the kids would not be able to do this, some of this stuff?
So the big thing that it would affect would be the conversation about equipment replacement. So winch and sawmill.
And how much are you thinking those things would cost?
Great question. All depends on how much rust you want to buy. 10 grand each, something like that, maybe. Sawmills are spectacularly expensive, so there'd be some other planning involved, fundraising.
Okay, so that probably wouldn't be able to happen this year anyway.
Oh, is that a question? Yeah, I don't know. I mean, you don't know. It's mainly that I'm advocating for the kids. $1,000 to you is not the same as $1,000 to them. It is a mountain of money for them, and the ownership that they feel and the educational experience that they feel. So that's what I'm just advocating for the kids to have more money to make decisions with and learn with.
Christina, did you have a?
No, I'm good. Thank you.
So, can I ask another question?
Yes, Lorraine.
So, I think we've heard two different things, right? We've heard forgiveness and we've heard deferment. So, if it's deferred till next year, that's $2,000 you guys are going to owe next year. Are you feeling that you would be able to do that?
Oh, that's a good question. No, we would not be. If the kids had to pay $2,000 next year, that would, I guess, it'd be added to the life of the loan, so the kids would pay it for one more year.
Okay.
Yeah, $1,000 is a big deal to them.
I get
yeah,
what
yeah.
And I mean, I guess the other piece to this is that, as with anybody doing a budget, that, there's some years that you don't make as much money because you have to pay your bills, and there's other years you make more money. So that's also a learning experience too for students to understand. I mean, I just had that conversation with a student this afternoon that he didn't make as much as he wanted to over the course of a month, and now he can't buy something he wanted. And said, well, that is life. So, but we do need to keep moving on. Are there any other questions? Thoughts?
So, Suzanne, just one thing. Aaron, this is directly related to COVID in terms of the loss or the gap in money that you're talking about, or not?
100%. The state experienced a record crop, and we just walked away from the operations.
Yeah. So that is definitely something to consider, I think.
I agree that's something to consider. As a small business owner in our chocolate shop, when we experienced a sharp decline in sales, yes, it does affect our bottom line. However, the state came through with a PPP loan. Potentially, if all of the criteria are met, it's a PPP grant. So there's life lessons all around on this one, I guess.
Yeah. So, folks, we're we've got a lot more to go through, and we do have a guest for our executive session later on.
Sure.
So do we have other questions for Aaron? Are people needing more time? We can table it till next meeting if necessary.
If it's not an undue burden on the students, I wouldn't mind tabling it to the next meeting. Otherwise, if it would affect things in the immediate term, I'd be happy to vote on it now.
No, I mean, no, we haven't even had our first FFA meeting. So yeah, no, right now it's not going to change anything.
Okay, thank you.
So what's the board's pleasure? Do you want to table until next meeting?
Table and move on to the next agenda item.
Is that a motion, Judd?
Yes, please.
Second, Kim.
It's been moved and seconded to table the request till next meeting. Is there any conversation, discussion? Hearing none, we'll proceed to vote. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay, any abstentions? Motion passed.
Suzanne, point of
yes.
clarification. Oh, sorry. Suzanne,
Yes.
just a point of clarification. When you have a motion to table in a second, you do not need to vote.
Okay, thank you.
Yep, you're welcome.
Thank you.
We need to do a motion to accept the letter for the intent to retire with regrets.
I'd move that.
So unfortunately, so what has happened on my computer is the only person I can see is Lorraine, so I'm sorry.
Oh, and I'm the only one you need to see, Suzanne.
ATS.
So was it moved and seconded by Nick?
No.
It was Kim.
I'll second it. Nick.
So Kim. So it's been moved by Lorraine, seconded by Kim
Thank you.
to accept the letter of retirement. With regret, she was a great teacher and with best wishes.
Yes.
Is there any discussion?
I'm assuming we'll start immediately to try and find a replacement.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. Hearing none, we'll proceed to vote. All in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion's passed. What else we have? Now we are policies. We have 4 of them: recruitment and background checks, substitute teachers, volunteers, and capitalization of assets. I do believe that they were asked to come back.
Yes, there was some concern the last time. I think it must have been Christina had asked about what they looked like before. And so, which was an excellent question. And so we have sent along, as you can see, the original policies and the new policies with the corrections on them. Other than the capitalization of assets, which I think I'm not sure whether that didn't change or I only see one copy here. So,
Brand new policy, Lorraine. There was no pre-existing policy, so that is brand new. So
okay.
Everything on there is new.
Okay. So yeah, if there are any other, unless there's any questions on any of the changes, it's pretty self-explanatory.
I just want to say thank you, Lorraine. It was very helpful to get the before and after snapshot.
Well, Christina, and really, we should have been doing that. So thank you for bringing it up.
Okay. Are there any questions on those policies? No? So I think what I'm gonna have to do is try to log out and log back into the meeting so that I can get my screen to unstick. So,
Lorraine should continue, shouldn't she?
Kim,
So Kim, I'm sorry.
Kim,
Yes.
can you take the meeting while I unlog and then log back in?
Question, do we need a motion on each one of the policies?
You can either do them all as one or you can do them individually.
Anybody have
Okay.
anybody have?
I'll
any-
be back.
Kim, unless there are any questions, I think the board could make a motion to just accept the policies because they've had to review them since last time. If they do have questions on one, then you could remove that one policy and accept the rest of the slate. That's entirely up to you.
Does anybody have any questions on any of those 4 policies that paperwork has been sent to you? Okay, seeing none, I would entertain a motion to take all 4 policies and act on those.
I would move that.
And a second,
Oh,
I believe that's Nick as the second.
Yes.
All right, any questions? I see scratches on heads, but no questions, so good. Anyway, on that, all those in favor?
Aye.
And Steve has his hand up. And I'm not sure if that's a yes. Thank you. A thumb would be much more acceptable. Any nays? And seeing none on my screen, it looks like it's unanimous, Linda. Now, at this point, I don't know if we want to move into the informational agenda. Kind of wait.
Kim?
There she
I'm
is.
back. Well, I am back, but Dana has, he added on at the end of the action agenda, the discussion on the possible hire of a building trades.
All right.
Finalist, I believe.
So we voted on the policies, so feel free to continue your conversation.
Thank you so much, Kim. Dana, the building trades?
So I would like to give you an update. The screening committee has been working very actively to find a suitable long-term sub for the construction tech program, and they are in the final stages of identifying someone. So right now, the way that it is developing is that they have interviewed 2 well-qualified candidates, and they have invited one candidate to come back and do a demonstration lesson. That demonstration lesson has already occurred and has been taped and is being provided to the members of the screening committee to view. The group will be meeting again on Monday, the 19th, to go over reference steps and any comments they have regarding questions or performance and impressions. We'll be gathering some student feedback. We have a student representative on that screening committee. He gave a little bit of input at their last meeting, which was today, and we'll be gathering more input from his classmates. And if everything goes well, it is presumed that this person may pass the screening committee's recommendation to come to the superintendent for recommendation to the board. I have been involved in the process this time just to make sure that we cover all of our bases. And the question is whether if we wait until the next board meeting to present the candidate, we could be at least a couple of weeks extra without an interim long-term substitute. So the request is whether the superintendent will be authorized to bring the person on board to actually begin instruction pending approval at the next board meeting for hiring. And then with that approval, the contract would be issued retroactively to the first day that the person is able to begin substituting for the Career Center. That would allow us to do onboarding. It would allow us to put information into the system for payroll, and it would allow us to efficiently bring a construction technology instructor on board with the least disruption to the system. Knowing that I would only bring a well-vetted, qualified candidate to you for approval at the next meeting. And so you're not asking me, or wouldn't be authorizing me to hire this person. That is a statutory obligation that the board has, but giving us the latitude to at least bring the person on board, and pending your approval, and that the contract would go from whenever we're able to bring that person in to start the subbing process. Knowing that a sub can be hired for up to 30 days, with superintendent discretion. So the only thing that you'd be authorizing is for us to start it, and then the contract would then be retroactive. Any question?
Yes, my question is, who's on the screening committee?
The screening committee consists of Shay Cravens, who's a student in construction tech, is the second year. Student who was actually in the program last year and continuing this year. Jake Burnham, architecture and engineering and computer science. Wendy Pratt, math coach and IB coordinator. Leonard Schmidt, co-op coordinator, and Mike Adderman, the special needs coordinator.
Thank you.
There are 5 members of that screening committee.
Judd, is that your hand?
Yes, it is. Approximately how many students are without a teacher at the moment in this, what this person would fill?
Well, when we have 14 students enrolled in the class, we do have a competent individual who is serving in a praiseworthy capacity in covering this. There is a little bit of strain on that person and the system.
Steve?
I just want to kind of repeat, I think other people have mentioned this in the meeting, but anybody who's not speaking should turn off their microphone. And that includes Suzanne and Kim. And I don't know if it can be done in the boardroom, but there's serious microphone feedback happening almost all the time. So.
Thanks, Steve. I know it wasn't. Nick, go ahead.
Would this be a full-time position or?
Well, it is replacing the construction tech position, which is it's a half-time position because construction tech is still only one half of the day. With this cohort, that group could go on to a second year, and next year we would probably have 2 cohorts, a first-year cohort and a second-year cohort. But right now, it's just one cohort of 14 students. There are only 1 or 2 students who were eligible to return last year because it was heavily senior laden. So the program is for afternoons only. So it's a little over it's a 0.55 position.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Are there any other questions? Judd?
I support this idea of giving superintendent and based on all of the things where the hiring committee had gotten this person this far, you feel confident with them. I think if it's continuity for the students and it's who you would go with anyway, I would move that we give Dana this permission.
Is there a second?
Kim,
was it? So it's been moved and seconded to offer the superintendent the ability to have the finalists start prior to the next board meeting, and with a final contract being written after the next meeting. All in favor? Is there any discussion? Okay, we'll proceed to vote. All in favor, please say aye, or raise your hands.
Aye.
Any nays? Any abstentions? Motion passed. All right, informational agenda. You were all sent a variety of reports from facilities to budget and policy, community engagement. There was no report. Business office, assistant director's report, adult tech ed, and the superintendent's report. Are there any questions? I know I have one, but I'll wait and see if you guys have any.
Hi, Suzanne.
Oops, Missy and then Lorraine. Christina and then Lorraine, sorry.
Oh, okay, sorry. I just have a request for Dana related to his report, related to budget preparation. And I was wondering when the time comes, or sooner than later, that especially that summary that's in your report, if you could share that with the business managers of the sending schools, it would just be really helpful for them to have all of that on their radar as soon as possible. Thank you.
Well, hang on, Christina, I'm not exactly sure, because that doesn't give them anything.
I think any kind of forecast that you're looking at is going to be helpful, because right now, at least in our business manager is working on lots of forecasting and projections, and trying to figure out what's what with the state and the feds, and any information related to Hannaford that they can have would be helpful.
Yeah, that's my plan. It's just that I don't think that this is what they need. They need other information, but this will not give them what they need in order to make financial forecasts, because it doesn't say how many students from their center, and we are going to know that after the October 15th processing of our FTEs. So it's more appropriate that we would be giving them in November what their projected costs are going to be based on those FTEs, rather than a preliminary report that only affects the center and only talks about our programs but doesn't tell them anything about how many students they have or how much it is going to cost them. So I hear your request. I'm just trying to translate that into something that would be meaningful to them. Because I could give them to this and still tell them what that means. So if that's a friendly amendment to what you're asking, I'm happy to do that.
Whatever works. I just, a heads up when you can get it and what you think they need.
Yeah.
Great. Yeah.
I've already been in contact with one of our primary school partners, and we'll do a presentation at the end of the month.
Great, thank you.
Okay.
Lorraine?
Yeah, Dana, I just wanted to make sure I understood. You gave us a breakdown of enrollment by program areas, and some of these have 2 and 3, 4 kids. Are you telling me that some programs or sections, or however how this works out, only have a couple of kids in them that we're running?
You have to interpret that. The short answer is yes. And the reason is that we have had a lot of changes as a result of the COVID impact. So if you look at on page 2 of my report, last row says plant and animal, others, that had 15 students, I believe. It now shows 0. That's because that particular section was decimated by students from one of our partner schools that changed the schedule, and those students weren't able to come.
Okay, so the teacher that would normally be teaching that section,
Actually is now teaching 2 sections of Middlebury students because they're split. The total numbers are enrolled there, but it's split on different cohorts. So we have had to do a lot of logistical scheduling in order to accommodate when students are available based on the partner school schedules.
okay, but we're actually running like this VisCom A, I don't know what that is, 2 kids.
Yep,
RM Wildlife, 3 kids.
that's correct.
Services, 2 kids.
Yep. That's
Okay,
based on the numbers that I got on October 8th. I did put in the rest of my report that we have, our FTE count has dropped considerably, almost 20 FTEs, which translates into, I don't know, probably 40 plus students.
right,
that have
right.
been impacted. So
Yeah, no, I get it. I just wanted to make sure I understood that. the
you
actual
understood
count
correctly.
is in sections. Thank you.
Yep.
So, does anyone else have any questions before I ask mine?
Yes, along the same lines as the previous question, I mean, these numbers are very concerning. And are there any action steps that are being taken to find 20 more kids or cut programs, or, I mean, this is a subject just on its own. So, you know, I think we could spend an hour right on this report.
Absolutely. So the question, Nick, is this is unusual. You have your historical numbers that you can look at. That's what I was asked to provide.
Yes, it's very helpful.
Program numbers for the current year and historical numbers from previous years. That's what my task was. At our last faculty meeting, I said, let's try to be as we possibly can. But in order to get kids, we have to have them available. And I think it's almost astounding that we're still able to have 126.81 FTEs in our system with the number of obstacles and the number of students who have not had access. So we were doing quite a bit to make sure that we had strong enrollments, and that was shown over the last couple of years. In fact, we are ahead of where we were back in 2016-17, which had hit a nadir. So the answer to your question, Nick, is yes, we are, but there are factors outside of our control that are preventing us from accessing a pool of students that we had access to 2 months ago, or at least on paper had access to. So the real question is, how do you want us to approach the current situation, which is a situation that has been acknowledged statewide and even at the legislative level, about how we are trying to hold schools harmless. Those are every school harmless with respect to ADM, which is their average daily membership. And we are impacted by that because the number of students that we have access to has been significantly curtailed as a result of changes that are beyond our control. So to answer your question and try to get it as succinct as possible, we are looking at making sure that we coordinate with our partner schools for a schedule next year that does not generate or create this type of conflict. By statute, technically, career centers set the schedule, and our partner schools are supposed to work with us so that the students, all students who have a desire to take a career and technical program can do that, or a career and technical class can do that. So it's a tough question for me to answer, Nick, in terms of how this particular year's numbers are impacting us. But what I can say is that since I arrived, we have been doing quite a few things in terms of promoting programs, working collaboratively with our partners, getting the word out, making sure that we're doing presentations and giving people the appropriate information to invite people to apply, see the center, and be accepted. So we would have had a much higher year. We would have had close to 140 FTEs and probably another 30 or 40 students. Tim.
Dana, you had mentioned last month's meeting that Mount Abe has invited us to come to the their next meeting in October. Is that still on the schedule?
It is 2 weeks from now, I think.
Do you have a date?
I believe it's the 26th, but that's off the top of my head. It's a Tuesday, last Tuesday in October.
Okay, thank you. The I would like to attend that meeting, and I think one of the things that I have a concern about your information is you don't have the breakdown, for instance, for each school. So that would give us some idea, you know, how many students. I mean, you mentioned 19 students are missing. I kind of would like to know which programs that it's affected directly, and, you know, or if that information can be available for that meeting at Mount Abe.
We have that, and we have that available.
Okay, thank you.
My task for this meeting was not to put together a school by school, and so I did not focus on that. I focused on the 2 tasks that were asked, and that was to give our current enrollments by program and an historical overview and FTEs, and I gave you that in the tables that I presented.
Thank you.
Does anyone, Steve, question?
No, I just wanted to note that I did bring this up at our last board meeting and just wanted to be sure that the board was aware of the situation. Patrick Reen's explanation of it pretty much matched Dana's. Their hands are you know, handcuffed by the same situation you guys are facing. So it's you know, there may be some room to discuss this further, but it's a decision they had to make on the fly during the summer to make things work. And so the board is aware of it, and I think they would look forward to Dana talking more about it when he comes this month.
So, thank you, Steve. So, Dana, if it's in 2 weeks, the date is 10/27.
Yes.
I just checked that. So I did have a couple of questions, if I might ask them.
Go ahead.
So, David, I don't want you to feel left out. So, your forklift training, is that full now, or are we still looking for students?
We're still looking. I think we have 5 registered in there, so we'll need 4 more. It's up to 9.
And so, your LNA training program is running. It's full now? All right, great. Okay, so now you can sit back because I don't have any more questions for you. So Dana, question for you. At one point, the legislature was thinking about a hold harmless on FTEs because of COVID for the school year. Has there been any motion on that?
And the ADM.
Yeah, ADM has approved it. Austin and I were on a webinar last Thursday, Friday, I can't remember. And they talked about ADM, and that was passing. That doesn't necessarily address CTE enrollments, however, I don't think. But and with respect to school districts in general, that has been approved. So we have a question on the plate to find out what that means for CTE centers. I have a director's meeting tomorrow, and I might get more information from AOE. So
Okay.
that'll be on my mind.
All right, and if Jay is still on?
Yep, I'm here.
Okay, my last question is for you. In your report, you talk about the initial start of staff evaluations. Do you have that schedule so that we know who is being evaluated and that we're getting through the staff this year?
Well, we don't have specific dates for that because what we've done is we've established the goal setting process and gone through that with each teacher, and then so our next step is is beginning those evaluations. So I don't have that right now, but we will hopefully have more. We'll be further along in that process for the November meeting, and could provide that.
And I wasn't able to access the documents through your report, but I will try again, and if I still can't come up with them, I'll email you directly.
Sure. Yeah, I thought I'd change the link so that anyone could, but I don't know if the PDF maybe was messed up. Did others have trouble accessing those documents?
Steve's shaking his head no, so it might have just been the computer I was on. Lorraine, were you able to access them?
Oh, Lorraine.
You're muted, Lorraine.
I think I was. I've got a ton of paper here. I'm pretty sure I was able to click on that and access it. I can't see it now, but I think I could.
All right. It might have just been the computer I was on. I've got some computers that are great with accessing things and others aren't.
Sure. Yeah, let me know, though. I'm happy to share it more directly if that's easier.
Are there any other questions? Nope. Okay. So we have on here, this is a new thing we put on last time, is other related to board operation. Is there anything else that people would like to discuss or would like to see on the next board agenda around board operation? Lorraine?
Can I just clarify, when you say related to board operations, that's the only place I see here to discuss other. So I'm not sure exactly what you mean by board operation, but if I have an other, or maybe you're planning on doing that. I mean, I did want to discuss tonight the need for a negotiations team, but were you planning on doing that in executive session under contracts, or can we just bring that up at some point here?
I was thinking of doing it in executive session.
That's fine.
Okay.
For another meeting, for the next meeting, I would really like to understand the numbers in Dana's report in more detail, and more or less spend some time on the programs to see what he feels is the short and longer term need for some of these programs.
Noted.
So if that's going to be on next month's agenda, what I would respectfully request, because I could give you reams and reams of paper, and I don't want to do that. I'd like a focus question, an essential question that you'd like asked for me to provide information about, and then I can give you the documents that support that essential question. Rather than having it be a broad question for which I could go on and on and on.
Nick, can you make that a very specific right now on the spot, or do you want to think about the wording and get it back to us?
Yes, I can think about it and get back to you.
Okay. Missy?
I would like to propose that if we're going to continue Google Meeting, which I think we will, that somehow we find a way not to have the board, I think it's 208 with multiple people in it, because it makes it very difficult to hear them. And I think that takes away from my ability to fully hear everyone. Yeah. And maybe they could be on separate devices.
Suzanne, does Google, or Dana, does Google work the same way as Zoom, where you can be made a panelist and then you have public attend separate? Is Google?
No, it's not as sophisticated as Zoom.
Okay.
The only comment I'll make is after Steve told everyone to mute, it seemed like the feedback cut out, but now it's kind of back again.
Missy?
Is there a reason why we don't use Zoom?
Other than Dana sets up the meetings, maybe not. I mean, your executive session is in Zoom.
We have
And I said
we do have a Zoom account and we could use that if that's your preference. We can do that. I don't think that this is a Google phenomenon. I've attended on Zoom, Microsoft Teams, and a variety of other platforms, and this is among the worst that I have experienced tonight.
It's because we're getting feedback through Missy's mic right now.
If anybody has more than one device on, if you use, for example, if you use a computer and you use a phone, you will get feedback, and that will cause feedback to the rest of the people in attendance. So just so that you know that. If you use multiple devices, that will cause the problem. We found that out when we were using Google Meet back in June. So that if you have more than one device at your home and you're using those, that will create considerable feedback. I can't say that that's what's happening, but we only have one device on here, and that is our surround sound audio with the interface through the computer. And right now I hear no feedback.
Because everyone's muted. Okay.
Well, I think that that system might bear a little scrutiny because I think it may be the fact that people are talking and we're getting feedback from your mic in that room. But it is much better when everybody does remember to mute. It's tough to do. I can see people, they get, they ask a question and then they forget to mute, and it's much better if people mute.
So to Steve's point, I think I can chime in on this. If people aren't muted, this is a very sophisticated microphone, and it's very sensitive. It will pick up. So you may actually be right. It may be taking your voice coming in and feeding it back through anybody else on there, and then picking up that feedback. That's a possibility. When we do smaller meetings and people are muted, we usually don't have the feedback problem that we're experiencing tonight.
So next meeting, let's plan on using Zoom, and we can do our guests as in the waiting room and pull them in and such. But is there anything else? Just know, I know our guest for executive session has been very kindly waiting for the last half hour now. Is there anything else people would like to have on the agenda for next meeting?
Suzanne, are we due for any kind of educational presentation anytime soon?
We would like to have those start again, but it's, for one, the students have to be back in school and comfortable with presenting, and I don't know how they would feel, but I would like to have them start coming back. Missy?
For the next meeting, I think we need to allocate plenty of time for Mike Davey to present what they had proposed for the projects. And I think that'll take a while. So maybe we want to go light on other agenda items.
Thank you. Anything else? Okay. Last thing, policy 4.1, governing style. I'll do this. I was horrible at managing the conversation tonight. And I was horrible at being able to see who was speaking when, because my computer screen froze and Jake tried to help me. Thank you very much, Jake. And it didn't work, so I had to leave the meeting and come back again. So I take full responsibility. If somebody wanted to say something and your board chair ignored you, I will have to find a way to make it up to you. That's my opinion of policy 4.1 governing style. If anybody else would like to say anything, speak, and then we will take a motion to go into executive session.
I make a motion to go into executive session.
We have to say for what though? So personnel contracts and add negotiations to that list.
Thank you, Lorraine.
You're welcome, Kim.
Is there a second on that?
Yes, Nick.
Thank you, Nick. It's been moved and seconded to go into executive session for personnel contracts and negotiations. All in favor, please say aye.
Can I ask a question?
Whoops, who's asking? Steve is.
Steve, do we need to come back to this meeting?
No, we will not.
Okay.
Okay. I said, you just said something. Okay. I sent the board members the link to the executive session. It's a Zoom link. So I will see you in Zoom in like 2 minutes.
Did we vote to go into executive session? We made the motion.
Did.
Yes, we did.
You have a motion, nobody voted.
No one voted. There was not a vote. There was a motion and a second, but no one, it was not an actual vote.
So,
Aye.
all in favor?
Aye. Suzanne, did
Aye.
you see Wendy's question?
There should not be any action from executive session, Wendy. Okay.
Okay.
Thank you all. I will see you in executive session.